You know, in teaching, we throw around words like method, approach, and technique all the time, right? And we often use them kind of interchangeably. But what if I told you that understanding the real difference between them could completely change how you plan and think about your lessons? Well, in the next few minutes, we're going to break down this idea of methodology in a way that's simple, clear, and actually useful for your classroom.
So, here's our game plan. We're going to start with the basic definition, then jump into the two frameworks that really shape this whole conversation. After that, we'll break down the three layers of methodology, use that knowledge to bust a few common myths, and then wrap up by showing you why this is such a powerful tool for any teacher.
All right, first things first. Before we can really get into the weeds, we need to be on the same page about what this word methodology actually means.
And let's just kick things off with a little question to get you thinking. Is something like communicative language teaching, or CLT, is that a methodology? You might have an answer right now, but let's see if you still think so in a few minutes. Just keep that question in the back of your mind.
Okay, so if you look it up, the dictionary gives you something like this: a system of methods. And yeah, that's a decent starting point. But for us in English language teaching, it's way more specific, way more structured. To really get it, we've got to go deeper.
And that deeper understanding really comes from two super influential frameworks that give us the structure we need to talk about all this.
So our story really begins back in 1963 with a guy named Edward Anthony. He's the one who first came up with a three-level model for this stuff. Then fast forward almost 40 years, and you have Richards and Rogers, who took Anthony's work and really expanded on it, updated it. These two models are basically our roadmap.
And here they are, side by side. As you can see, they both have this three-layers structure. But check out the words they use. Where Anthony said method and technique, Richards and Rogers changed it to design and procedure. And trust me, this is way more than just swapping out a few words. It actually shows a more detailed way of thinking about teaching. So let's do this. Let's break this whole thing down layer by layer. We're going to start at the very top, the most abstract part, and work our way down to what's actually happening in the classroom.
All right, at the very top of the pyramid, we have the approach. This is the big picture stuff. It's your philosophy. It's not about what you do in class, but why you do it. This is all about your core beliefs about teaching and learning. Now, Anthony just called it a set of principles or ideas, but Richards and Rogers got a lot more specific. They split it into two things: your theory of what language is it a set of grammar rules? Is it a tool for communication? And your theory of how language is learned. It really forces you to get clear on your own beliefs. Okay, moving down a level. This middle layer is where all those big abstract beliefs start to get turned into a real practical plan. This is what Anthony called method and what Richards and Rogers called design. See, for Anthony, the method was basically the overall plan, but Richards and Rogers expanded that into design, which is a much, much bigger idea. It covers the whole shebang: what kind of syllabus you're using, the types of activities you plan, and even the specific roles that teachers and students are expected to play. It's literally the blueprint for your classroom. And that brings us down to the ground level: technique or procedure. This is the most concrete part. This is the stuff you and your students are actually doing during a lesson. And on this level, the two frameworks are pretty much in sync. Whether you call it a technique, like using a drill or asking an eliciting question, or a procedure, it's what someone would physically see and hear happening in your classroom. These are the real nuts and bolts. But here's a really important thing to remember. As great as these frameworks are for helping us think, they're just models. They're just a way to organize our thoughts. The real world of teaching is messy, you know? Not everything is going to fit perfectly into these little boxes. So think of them as a helpful guide, not a strict set of rules. Okay, now for the fun part. We've got this awesome framework, so let's use it to clear up some of those common mix-ups we talked about at the beginning. Let's start with a total classic: PPP. We all know it, we've all probably used it. But is it a methodology? What do you think? The answer is nope, not even close. PPP is a lesson structure. It's a way of organizing your procedures, those things you do in class. But it's not a full methodology on its own, because it doesn't have its own unique theory of language and learning. It fits into the design layer. Okay, how about this one? Being learner-centered. That feels like a whole philosophy, right? So that must be a methodology, for sure. Well, not quite. Being learner-centered is absolutely a core belief that shapes your design. It says a lot about the roles of teachers and students, but on its own, it isn't a complete methodology because it doesn't specify a theory of language. It's a crucial piece of the puzzle, but not the whole puzzle.
And you can apply this same thinking to other things. Choosing to teach grammar inductively or deductively, that's a procedure choice. Task-based learning, that's a design, because it's all about a specific type of syllabus and activity. Even something like dogma is best described as a specific approach to lesson design that actually fits inside the bigger CLT methodology.
Okay, so who cares? We've defined all these terms, we've busted a few myths. Why does any of this academic stuff actually matter to you in your classroom day to day? What's the real point? Well, the real power here is that it makes you a better, more reflective teacher. It lets you work backwards. You can watch a lesson, yours or someone else's, and you can see the techniques. From there, you can figure out the lesson's design. And from that, you can figure out the teacher's core beliefs, their approach. It turns you into a teaching detective, and that's a seriously high-level skill. And all of this leaves us with one big final question. Right now, communicative language teaching, or CLT, is pretty much the dominant methodology out there. But these things are always changing, always evolving. So what's next? What new ideas about language and about learning are going to shape the next big methodology? Now that is something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.